Nuclear Christ, throne of ashes, crown of worms. The rain-slicked streets whispered lies in the dead of night, and I could hear them through the thin walls of my office. The cries of the starving, the distant shouts of men I once trusted, now turned to shadows. I am an advisor, or I was, until the machinery of government made me into a witness to its slow decay. We were a people besieged, cut off from the arteries of the world, slowly starved while the enemy tightened its grip with patient professional cruelty. The city had become what I once described in a classified memorandum as entrenched in the unending dirge of creation, a place where suffering reproduced itself endlessly, where each dawn only birthed another day of calculated deprivation. Breadlines turned into funeral processions. Hospitals turned into warehouses of the barely breathing. And I, in my pressed suit and polished shoes, was expected to advise restraint. Restraint. The first time I suggested the unthinkable, it came out almost casually. The council chamber was cold, lit by generators that coughed and sputtered like dying animals. Faces around the table were gaunt, cheekbones sharp enough to cut glass. They want us to collapse from within, I said. They are starving us, infiltrating us, hollowing us out. They are confident in their satellites, in their intelligence alliances, in the surveillance net wrapped around this land like barbed wire. I placed the map on the table. We still have the tunnels. A silence fell that felt geological. The tunnel system had been carved generations ago. Mining arteries beneath the mountains, forgotten smuggling routes, wartime supply corridors. Miles of earth and stone impervious to orbital eyes. No satellite could see through granite. No drone could trace what crawled beneath the crust. And what, the Prime Minister asked, voice brittle, would we bring through these tunnels? I looked at each of them. Hunger had stripped away illusions. There was nothing left but bone and will. A nuclear device. The words did not echo. They sank. The tunnels were no secret to history, but they were secrets to geology. Collapsed in sections, flooded in others, pockets of bad air and toxic seepage gathering in their lungs like old grudges. No convoy of grain could have survived their length. Crates would have rotted in the damp, men suffocated in the narrows. Repeated passage triggering seismic whispers the enemy's instruments would have caught. Food required rhythm, repetition, daylight at the end. The tunnels allowed none of that. They permitted only singularity. Our ally understood this. When we transmitted the code word, it signified the highest tier of desperation, a request not for aid, but for final recourse. Only 3 of us in the service knew the exit coordinate where the deepest shaft surfaced beneath an abandoned rail depot beyond the cordon. That location was never written, never digitized, never spoken outside shielded rooms. The Allies' handlers already possessed it from an older pact, sealed decades ago against a contingency no one believed would ripen. When they received the code word, they did not argue. They began dismantling the bomb into transportable segments, dense in different pieces that could endure water, shock, compression, because the tunnels could swallow a coffin-sized sun once, but they would never again carry bread. It would kill our people. It would kill theirs. It would end the siege. This, I told them, is not strategy. It is a verdict. After a few seconds of taking in the gravity of the situation that my words evoked, a ripple of laughter which began with our top general spread across the room. The kind of laughter that breaks loose when the abyss finally shows its face and there is nothing left to pretend about. A spasm of terminal mirth from the distended, billowing frog throat of a dying civilization. But then, in complete seriousness, as quick as it came, everyone looked at each other and agreed that it was absolutely the right thing to do. The vote was unanimous. We were no longer a government. We were flesh-bound to the machinery of oblivion, lashed to gears already turning. As I walked the tunnels during inspections, flashlight trembling in my hand, I felt veins flooded with the black milk of nihility. The earth pressed close around us, damp and ancient. Soldiers moved like wraiths, their boots scraping rock in soft, doomed rhythms. Above us, the enemy broadcast messages about humanitarian corridors that never opened. They held press conferences beneath flags and fluorescent lights, calling us aggressors while our children counted ribs in the mirror. It was an autopsy of hope performed in slow motion. When the final assembly was completed in a cavern beneath the city's industrial quarter, I stood alone before it. It did not look like apocalypse. It looked like a sealed coffin. I placed my palm against its casing. This was our answer to starvation. The detonation site had been chosen with clinical precision. The enemy's military administration tower stood at the heart of the occupied zone. Around it, their security apparatus, their intelligence hub, their collaborators. Around that, neighborhoods where our people still lived, too weak to flee, too watched to resist openly. The night we moved it into position, the sky above the city churned with storm clouds, the eternal gnashing of a godless firmament, thunder grinding across the heavens as if the cosmos itself saluted us. The convoy crawled through the final stretch of tunnel. When we emerged into the hidden sub-basement beneath the industrial quarter, rain hammered the streets above. Perfect cover. I remember the faces of the last team who sealed the chamber. Hollow, determined, already ghosts. Extraction? The operations chief asked. There is a window, I said. Narrow. He nodded. He understood that not all of them would make it out. As I climbed the access ladder and stepped into an alley thick with refuse and rain, I saw families huddled beneath awnings, eyes vacant. They did not know what we had done. They did not know that beneath their feet lay a sun waiting to rise. We were burdened by the infinite rot of a dying cosmos. There was no purity left in our choices, only degrees of annihilation. At the extraction point, a forgotten rail spur outside the perimeter, I waited in a vehicle with darkened windows. The timer ticked in my pocket, synced to the device below. 5 minutes. 4. I closed my eyes and saw the council chamber again. I saw the Prime Minister's hands shaking as he signed the final authorization, and I saw my own reflection in the polished table, thin, severe, already condemned. I thought of what would come next. The world would call it madness. They would call us monsters. Perhaps there is no moral language adequate for what we did, but I know the truth. The truth is that sometimes, to save a people, you must be willing to destroy what you love. And I had been willing. We had become a civilization cradled in the filth of our own extinction, rocking ourselves toward oblivion and calling it necessity. 1 minute, I expected panic, regret. Instead, there was only a terrible clarity. History would reduce this to a paragraph, a footnote, a crime. But for us, it was survival distilled into fire, our spirit of defiance to live on through the ages. If we were sentenced to die anyway, we were going to go out with our teeth in the throat of history. No big and empty words as we'd heard over and over. Instead, the pure act of death on our own terms. The flash came first, a second sun erupting from the city's core. The horizon bloomed white, then orange, then a roiling pillar clawing upward in what looked like a procession of the self-devouring sun. Buildings evaporated, glass liquefied. The shock wave followed, a physical fist slamming into the countryside. Even miles away, the vehicle rocked violently. Windows shattered. A low rolling roar devoured the night. In that roar, I heard a choir of teeth beneath the collapsing sky. The grinding of concrete, the snapping of steel, the collective scream of a metropolis undone. I did not weep. I watched. The mushroom cloud rose, obscene and magnificent, a blackened flower blooming where our city had been along with theirs. For a moment, the storm above parted, and lightning forked through the cloud as if blessing it. Then darkness returned. I moved between safe houses over the next days, shedding identities like old coats. The world called it barbarism, war crime, madness, in all the putrid splendor of their crushing, hypocritical worthlessness. They were not wrong, but the siege was broken, the land of the enemy destroyed forever. The city was now the cathedral of unanswered screams, every shattered building a vault of grief. As for me, I disappeared into the margins of history, officially dead in the blast, unofficially alive in the quiet places beyond the border. At night I still see it, the rising column, the white flash, the moment the world pivoted. I do not pretend it was righteous. I do not pretend it was clean. But I know this. They tried to starve us into submission. They tried to hollow us out from within. They believed that hunger and infiltration would erase our will. Instead, they found a people willing to burn their own city rather than kneel. And in that terrible, incandescent act, our resistance was not in vain.